All right. So we are live and good afternoon. I am excited because there's so much going on. And I'm going to stop the music. There's so much going on and so many wonderful, wonderful things that have been happening. I think I need to lower the volume on the YouTube though. So give me 1 second. But while we are getting set up and while we're getting ready for today, I have had some amazing, amazing things that have been going on, and I've been waiting for and I've been receiving some, but I've been wanting some more testimonies to come in from the prayers that we have been um, putting out and sending out while we are in this 21 days of midnight oil. We have 3 more nights to meet at midnight. And so if you're not meeting with us at prayer for the midnight oil, I promise you, you're missing an amazing opportunity and some amazing prayers. The testimonies that have been rolling in have been phenomenal. And I'm excited, not just for the people, but I'm excited because people are getting excited about prayer again. And I don't know if people have noticed, but prayer has been one of those things where people will feel like, oh, it is paramount and I can't live without it. And then some situations and things happen in your life, and all of a sudden you realize, I have not been praying like I need to, or like I used to, or like I should. Um, and then we start back and we start seeing the results of it. And then what happens is we end up having breakthroughs. We end up getting relief from the pressure and the stress, right? And then we are fervent and passionate about prayer all over again. Then all of a sudden, something else happens. Our focus shifts and change. Things get better. It gets lighter. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves slipping away from it again. So I have a system and I have a routine so that prayer becomes that habitual thing that I do. When I first wake up in the morning, I always literally stop everything and just say, wherever I'm at, whether I'm in the bathroom, standing in the mirror, whether I am kneeling on the side of my bed as soon as I get up, I just stop and I just thank God. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful to have been on the list of those to wake up. I'm grateful for the favor and the blessings that today holds. I speak to the day and declare what I'm expecting the day to bring to me, unfold before me, and happen through me, as me, for me, in my favor, open doors, connections, divine connections, all of those things. And I start speaking them. And then I kind of go into my morning, like just my morning stretches and so forth, making the bed, all those things. But while I'm doing that, I'm still speaking the language of gratitude. I'm still thanking God. I'm still showing appreciation for everything that has happened in my life, how my body has sustained me this far, how, even my hair has gotten fuller and longer and thicker and da da da. So I thank my hair follicles. I thank my body for sustaining me. I thank my body for not looking like the trauma or the drama or the stress or the life that we've lived. I don't look like what I've been through. I don't look my age. I don't, so I thank my body for not aging so fast, for not making me have aches and pains every single day when I open my eyes. I thank my body. And do you know, when I get up, it feels even better. When I get moving throughout the day, I feel even better. And it keeps getting better. As one of the little children told me when I used to volunteer at the school, it gets better and better and better. So that getting better is important, right? So now I want to welcome everyone to Resetting Your Resolutions. And I know I went off on a tangent, so please forgive. But I'm excited because today we have so many things to talk about. I want to get these things out and get this information to you. And I want you to take notes if you can. You can always go back and look at this on my YouTube channel. But also, while all of this is going on, I want to just remind you that we are definitely experiencing some shifts And definitely, how can I say it? Uh, mm, the people that I have been able to help, to affect, to impact, to make a result in changing their lives based upon the work that I've been doing, it has opened up different opportunities for me. But more importantly, I'm excited that I get to see these women's lives changed. So, the conversation that we're going to have today is not just about stress, it's not just about survival mode, right? Because many women have mastered looking functional while internally falling apart. We have learned some of us may think we look like we're being lazy. Some of us may feel like we're unmotivated. Some of us may even feel exhaustion, but we still make it look easy, right? Internally, we could be a hot mess, but externally, like our outfits are together, our hair is done, our nails are done, we got a little makeup on. We may even go so far as to make sure that, we have the shoes to match, the car is clean, and, the house looks impeccable. But no one gets to go into the bedroom because the bedroom usually reflects how we feel on the inside. Whatever room you spend the most time in your home, it usually looks like what you feel like inside. So there's a difference between feeling that way, that emotional depletion, that hormonal overwhelmingness, that spiritual disconnect, that mental overload, financially stressed, physically inflamed, operating from nervous system survival instead of intentional living, right? And the dangerous part is this: survival mode can become a normal um, form of or way of living. And when it becomes normal, peace starts to feel uncomfortable. So today we're going to uncover how survival mode impacts the body, the brain, right? Why women overfunction in those times, how trauma affects spending, relationships, health, why burnout affects discipline, how emotional exhaustion creates financial instability in our lives, and how healing allows us to rebuild our lives intentionally. But before we do that, I just want to remind you all, we are healing at the root here. So I'm going to open the line with prayer really quickly and cover our us and the line so that we can move forward in power, right? So, Father, we just thank you for today. We thank you for those who have shown up, those who listen to the recording, those who wanted to be here but couldn't. And Father God, we ask you for those who will listen to the recording, allow everyone under the sound of my voice to experience a new level of clarity, understanding of how to practically apply the knowledge they have to translate it into wisdom, how healing and restoration is their portion, and begin to open up their understanding and their perspective to know that they deserve that healing and restoration. Reveal the places where we have normalized exhaustion. Show us where survival mode has become our identity. Help us to release fear, overworking, emotional suppression, guilt, shame, and the pressure of constantly performing for others, even ourselves. Teach us how to regulate our minds, to calm our nervous systems, to steward our finances wisely, and to care for our bodies that you entrusted us to. We declare that healing is possible, peace is possible, rest is possible. Discipline is possible, and wholeness is possible. In Jesus' name, we declare all of this as our portion and our reality. And it is so. So let's go a little deeper because we talk about some things and we say some words, but we don't really always fully understand what we're saying, right? So I want to talk to you about the neurological effects of survival mode. The brain was designed to protect you, not keep you in constant emergency, fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, right? So when women live in prolonged stress, trauma, grief, instability, betrayal, burnout, or even chronic emotional pressure, the brain begins to operate from survival instead of regulation. So the way that looks is this. This affects you in three different areas of how the body and the mind tries to protect us, right? And those three different areas in the brain that it affects is the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and the hypothalamus. Okay. So let's talk about the amygdala first. The amygdala is in the brain's alarm system. So it's kind of like in the middle of the brain, right? And its job is to detect danger and activate the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So when trauma or chronic stress occurs repeatedly, the amygdala begins to becomes overactive. The brain stays hypervigilant. That's when you start seeing symptoms and signs of like OCD, right? The body consistently scans for danger, always in a hypervigilant, heightened sense of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And the emotional responses intensify. Trust decreases. Anxiety increases. Rest begins to feel unsafe. How many of us have had rest feeling unsafe to us before? Just put a one in the chat because I know I've been there. I've been there. This is why many women overreact emotionally, right? They feel constantly on edge. They struggle to relax. They anticipate worst case scenarios. How many of us know people like that? They become emotionally exhausted. This teaches, yes, it teaches us that the amygdala, being in that hypervigilant state, it stays alert because danger could happen again. Remember, I told you all to imagine when you think about the amygdala, like I said, it's in the middle of your brain. When you think about that, think about the amygdala is the part of your brain that says when our ancestors used to be out hunting and foraging, and they would see a bear or a tiger, a couple of 100 yards away, it would cortisol increases, adrenaline increases in the body. Why? So that you could run for your life. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, right? And so when the amygdala goes into that overactive state, it causes the prefrontal cortex, which is in the front of the brain, which is where you have your logical thinking, because the last thing you want to do when you're running for your life is to have a logical thought, right? So it shuts the prefrontal cortex down. And if your prefrontal cortex stays shut down long enough, it will actually start to decrease in size. See how important it is for us to come out of fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode? And so when that happens, the brain cannot distinguish between an actual emergency, emotional overwhelmingness, or if this is just a thought that puts you in memory of something that was at one point dangerous, but you're not there now. Your brain does not see the light of day. Because it doesn't, the only reality that your brain has is what the senses are telling it. Sight, smell, hearing, touch, what your senses tell it. That's all it has to go on. So when you become heightened, frightened, all your brain knows is, I have to protect you. So we're going to shut down the prefrontal cortex. We're going to increase adrenaline. Run. But here's the thing. Some women are too emotional. That's what the world will say. I say that women are not being too emotional. I say that they are overstimulated. I say that we have an amygdala that is overstimulated and it's trying to protect us. Our nervous system has simply been living in emergency mode for too long. Now let's talk about the prefrontal cortex, that logical thinking center, right? The prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making. It's your emotional regulation. It's for planning, focus, discipline, impulse control, reasoning, financial choices, healthy communication. But during chronic stages and stress, the amygdala becomes larger while the prefrontal cortex becomes less active and smaller. This means that the emotions override logic. How many of us have had those situations in our lives where we felt like I was extremely emotional during that time and I was not making logical decisions? I can honestly tell you all, um, let your child have a traumatic thing happen to them scream for mom. I promise you, logical thinking and rational thinking goes out the window, and all you are is in fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. You are in protective lioness mode, full-fledged on full frontal. You don't think about what it takes. I have seen mothers jump in front of a charging dog to protect their child. I've seen mothers child got stuck under a car will lift a car to get it off of their child, right? And so that's what happens. But the prefrontal cortex, it literally controls our impulses. And so when it's being shut down, what happens? Our impulses are lessened, our logic is decreasing, our procrastination rises, impulsive spending will increase. Emotional and logic, they are literally on a teeter-totter, and logic is losing, right? Our focus decreases, our discipline weakens, emotional eating increases, shutdown becomes common. These are ways that the body tries to protect itself from being in that survival mode too long, right? So this is why survival mode affects us. And so it affects us financially. It affects our relationships. It affects our business decisions. It affects our parenting. When you're in survival mode, your parenting skills are diminished because your logical center is being shut down and you're making solely emotional decisions. Who thinks that will be a good thing for any family, right? Self-care will diminish. Why? Because who's concerned about whether or not I'm sweating too much or my deodorant is failing me when you're running for your life, when you're fighting for your life, right? Productivity diminishes because you've been in that heightened state for so long. The adrenaline levels don't drop, but guess what? When they do, they drop drastically. And now you're tired, you're sleeping, you can barely function, you can barely focus, you can barely keep your eyes open. When I was in law enforcement, we would have a major call, we would have a chase, we would have some shooting and have to respond to a call or a fight or whatever. And when you finish that call, after the arrests are made and all this other stuff, one person will be taking everybody to the jail or whatever after statements have been taken. And the other people will be left at the station doing reports, right? You had to do a report. So if you were fast at writing reports like I was, I could write a report 15, 20 minutes. The problem was this. During that 15, 20 minutes of me sitting there doing the report, my body starts calming down. Adrenaline drops. And I find myself nodding. And I'm like, I'm not sleepy. Why am I nodding? Because the adrenaline was so high and now it's dropping. It spiked and now it's dropping. That's why I tell people I didn't drink coffee because I didn't like that drop at the end of it, right? So that's what happens in your mind and in your brain. But here's the thing I want you all to understand. The exhausted brain seeks immediate relief instead of long-term strategies. And so when your prefrontal cortex is being shut down, your brain is not thinking about the long-term results, the long-term effects. It's thinking about an immediate gratification, immediate dopamine hits to help it. Something immediate, right? Sometimes it's not that you lack discipline, right? Sometimes your nervous system is overloaded and your brain is trying to survive, not knowing that these are situations that are mostly in our mind, not in reality. Now, the third part of the brain that is affected in all of this is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sits in the back. The hypothalamus is the brain's regulation center. It controls your hormones, your body temperature, your hunger, your sleep cycles, your stress production, your reproductive hormones, your nervous system communication. Sounds like it's pretty important, right? When the hypothalamus remains under chronic stress, levels stay high. Hormone begins to dysregulate. Inflammation increases in the body because it's trying to protect some stuff. It's trying to figure out what is going on, what's going on. So instead, it starts seeking out any little issue, and it starts trying to send increased mucus to that area to, to encapsulate whatever it thought was the problem, right? Any issue. Sleep decreases. Why? Because the body's in hypervigilance. I'm walking on the balls of my feet. The antennas are up. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. Who's thinking about sleeping right now? If you've ever been able to stay awake for 2-3 days straight because some foolishness was going on in your life and you were stressed to the max and you were overstimulated and everything was, you're like, everything is dependent on me and I gotta. And then when you finally go to sleep, 12 hours later, you may wake up and you're like, I slept for 12 hours. Because your body finally calmed down. But as long as the hypothalamus remains under that chronic stress, guess what? Fatigue worsens, menopause symptoms intensify, brain fog increases, emotional instability rises. The body begins operating chemically stressed. Think about that. It's one thing for the amygdala to say, I'm stressed, right? But then for the body to start chemically acting like I'm stressed. This is why survival will often manifest physically through weight gain, chronic fatigue, migraine headaches, digestive issues, anxiety, insomnia, autoimmune flare-ups. Who has been diagnosed with autoimmune disease? You've been operating in survival mode too long, right? Emotional eating. Who find themselves with a bag of chips when stuff gets stressful? Some peanuts, some popcorn. You just ate and you're not even hungry, but because it's some foolishness going on, you're snacking. Let me get a 4 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. That's all I'm saying. I'm just gonna hold up my 4, okay? Right. Nervous system exhaustion. All of those are things that happen, right? The body keeps adapting to stress until it no longer knows how to rest. But can I tell you something? Just because the body is adapting does not mean that you are healthy or in a healthy state. So how trauma rewires the brain, because here's the thing that I need for you all to understand. Trauma changes neural pathways in our brain. If you didn't understand that, the brain begins creating automatic survival responses based on past pain. So when a trauma happens, normally when situations happen in our lives, it plays in our memory bank like a little movie or a clip from a movie, right? You've had that happen before. Now, when a trauma happens, it's like a snapshot. There's no narrative to it. There are no other scenes. It's a snapshot. When your brain does not have a movie to go along with the image that it sees, guess what? It goes into danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger. When your brain goes that route, what begins to happen is it tries to compensate or overcompensate for what could have potentially been happening or going on. It tries to figure out what was the story. And it's always going to think the worst because all it remembers is the hormones were heightened, the prefrontal cortex was shutting down, the amygdala was overstimulated, and the hypothalamus had to send hormones and had to try to regulate everything because everything went haywire. That's why I'm doing this. It went haywire. Everything inside went like this. Now, here's some examples. Abandonment creates hyperindependence. Betrayal creates distrust. Instability creates overworking. Criticism creates perfectionism. Poverty creates financial fear. Emotional neglect creates people pleasing. If I named one of your vices or a vice that you recently had or recognizing yourself, even if it was from your past, just put a 4 in the chat for me. I had a couple of 4s, okay? I'm just going to let you know. And I had to deal with and address those in my own sessions, right? Over time, these patterns become neurological habits. So anytime the brain sees or gets sensations from your senses, that the environment around you is something familiar or similar to what caused it to go into these modes and patterns and places and spaces previously, guess what happens? It immediately jumps there again. You could not even be anywhere close to somewhere dangerous. You could not be in a situation, but if it vaguely looks like, if it remotely feels like, if something is happening and you think back on that moment, your brain doesn't know it's a thought. It's like, we're there again. Does that make sense? So the brain learns this is how we stay safe. But healing allows the brain to rewire. And that's why I tell you all, you have to stay consistent with your words, your thoughts, your actions to reprogram your brain to not operate from a place of survival, to not respond the way it would have should you not know how to recognize those symptoms and situations. Now, I know I've been doing a whole lot of talking, but I'm going to give you some scripture to it. Matthew 11:28 verse through 30 says this: Come to me, all you who labor and who are heavy laden and overburdened, and I will cause you to rest. Now, if you are laboring, that means working. Heavy laden, that means that there are things weighing on you. And overburdened, that means that you have hit the absolute maximum capacity that you can carry. And he says he will cause you to rest. So Jesus acknowledges burdens, right? Many women carry emotional burdens, family burdens, financial burdens, hormonal burdens, leadership burdens, hidden trauma burdens, right? But those heavy burdens that we carry, we don't always share that with people. We've learned to internalize those, right? And we try to smile on the outside. But heaven never called for you to destroy yourself to prove your worth. You are worthy simply because you were born. You are worthy simply because you are. Some women are on unpaid, they have this one unpaid bill away from having a whole nervous breakdown. But they're still saying, I'm fine. I'm good. It's going to be okay. And they won't reach out for help. I need for you to understand something. We need each other to survive. We need each other to maintain. It's not just, I got this. Because guess what? Even if you got it, you weren't called to carry it all by yourself. Now, some of us are one eye twitch away from a blackout, from a stroke, a heart attack, because we're holding all this stuff in and we're not finding a place of release. Most of you know that I do therapy sessions, but guess what? Do you know that I have my own therapist? Do you know that I have someone that I call on a regular basis and talk out and talk through what I'm going through or growing through, as I like to say? I'm not one of those people who will tell you that you should talk to somebody or that you should have somebody you trust enough to go to. I'm that person who has someone for me to go to. Why? Because we need each other to survive. That song keeps playing in my head. I need you to survive. I prayed for you. You pray for me. Why? Because none of us were created to be an island. So now here's how we reprogram, the concept of cognitive reprogramming. The way that cognitive distortion is commonly displayed in survival mode is, you all heard me say it, catastrophizing. And some people are like, that's not even a word. It really is. It really is. It's that one thing goes wrong and we're like, everything is wrong, right? That's because so much has gone wrong in the past until when the first thing goes wrong, you're like, oh, here we go again. It's going to go rolling downhill. But remember, I tell people and remind you often, if you talk to me on a regular basis, you'll have what you say, prophet. So when something goes wrong, say, I'm going to get up and I'm going to take a walk outside in the sun. I'm going to go make a cup of tea. I'm going to do whatever, something different. Why? So that I don't let my mouth write a check that I don't want my life to have to cash, right? Hypervigilance, always anticipating danger or disappointment. How many of us have some friends like that? They always anticipating, like, oh my goodness, here we go. This always happened to me, right? But guess what? Again, you'll have what you say, prophet. Why would we say something or speak something that we don't want to live out? But we do it anyway because the world has trained us to just say it. No, you were trained upside down. Your emotions do not get to run the narrative. So shut them down by shutting them up. And sometimes that means closing your mouth and speaking life into the situation, praying over the situation before you allow any words to cross your lips. That's putting a guard at the gate. Emotional reasoning. I feel unsafe, so I must be unsafe. A feeling is not real. How many of us have felt something that we know was not true? How many of us have felt something like, oh, I feel like this person is going to betray me? And they don't. I feel like something about this person's gonna lie on me. And they don't. We've accused our bosses at work when we worked at other people's jobs. Oh, that boss is gonna betray me. They're gonna stab my back. They're gonna try to steal my work. How often does that happen? It's not often, but it does happen, but it doesn't happen often. But we will allow that one thought to literally just grow. We allow that one seed to literally grow roots down and start sprouting up. Start uprooting the lies as soon as you hear it, as soon as you feel it. That's a lie. Because God said the vengeance is mine. So even if they do it, God's going to fight the battle. Start speaking life. Start speaking what you want and desire to happen, what you are claiming and professing to happen. Because once you say it into the atmosphere, guess what? Now there are angels that are going to go forth and they're going to do what they need to do to make it come to pass. That's why you don't want to say the negative things. Over responsibility, believing you must carry everyone emotionally. As a mother, how many of us have done that? As a sister, as a daughter, how many of us have done that? Right. Carry everybody else's stuff is not your business. I love my mother to life. I love my sisters to life. But guess what? My arms are tired carrying Chantel stuff. My back was bent over and hurting for carrying everybody else's stuff. And when I figured out that it was from me carrying everybody else's stuff, I gave them back their stuff. I don't have many back issues. At one point, they were talking about I would need back surgery. Can I tell you, I haven't had a doctor tell me that in years now? Because I learned to give people back their stuff and stop picking up stuff that didn't belong to me. Right? Then that black and white thinking. If I rest, I'm failing. No. Rest is necessary. God rested on the seventh day. Now, we're not God, so we're not going to go days without rest. But guess what? You have a circadian rhythm that says about 2 hours after the sun sets, max, you should already be headed to the bed. Now, for the past, I'm 3 days shy, 21 days, but for the past 17 days, 18 days, excuse me, I have been having the midnight oil prayer on my Zoom. And so we've been having that prayer. So I've been staying up most days, all day, do the midnight oil prayer. And then I go to bed, I try to wind down afterwards to go to sleep. And it still takes me about an hour to 2.5, 3 hours sometimes to settle my system enough that I can actually sleep. But that alarm's still going off at 7:30. And the first couple of days, I found myself exhausted because I was still trying to get up and push. And then finally, I heard myself say, it's okay to rest. So I moved the alarm clock back to 9 o'clock. I made sure I didn't have meetings. Now, if I have a meeting earlier in the morning or whatever, I'll set an alarm for that. But outside of that, I set the alarm to wake me up at 9 because I'm not going to sleep till almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Literally 2:30, 3 o'clock, I am just going to sleep after getting off of the midnight oil prayer. And we're not on there for a whole, we may be on there about 30, 35 minutes max. And so with that being said, I had to tell myself and remind myself, it's okay to rest. And so the cognitive reprogramming techniques look like this. Do a thought interruption. When you hear a thought, when that negative survival thought appears, interrupt it immediately. So here's an example. Old thought. I have to do something. I have to do everything myself, right? Literally interrupt it. I can ask for help and still remain strong. Shut it down. If I rest, everything will fall apart. Rest increases my clarity, my wisdom, and my effectiveness. If I don't rest, I won't be good for anything or anybody, including myself. Shut it down. Right? So think about this. What beliefs did survival mode teach you? You don't have to tell me, but write it on your paper. Examples: that rest is laziness. I have to earn love. I cannot trust people. I always have to struggle. I must overwork to survive. Money disappears quickly. I can't slow down. All those are lies, right? We do know that. Now ask yourself, who would you become if those beliefs actually healed you? Let that sit for a second. If any of those actually healed something, corrected something, or fixed something. So if that's not the case, and you know those are not true, then start speaking life and truth to yourself. Don't just allow negative thoughts to just rehearse and run through your head like a 2-year-old just realizing that they can actually run in the house, even though you told them not to and taught them not to. But they figure you're busy on the phone. So they're like, I'm going to run and follow the dog. I'm going to run and follow the cat. And they're having fun running back and forth, back and forth. Quit letting those thoughts run through your head like a disobedient 2-year-old, an over hyper 2-year-old. So I want you all to take just a moment. If you're sitting, sit up straight. If you're standing, stand up straight and tall. We're going to do some deep breathing. Take a deep breath in your nose. Hold it at the top to the count of 4. Open up your arms to open up your chest. And breathe out your mouth. Roll your shoulders back this time. Take another deep breath. Out your mouth. Another breath. Now, the reason why I have you all do that, and you all can keep breathing while I'm talking, is because this. The longer exhale helps calm the sympathetic nervous system, and it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, meaning it activates the prefrontal cortex. It shuts down the hypothalamus. It causes the amygdala to start to regulate and calm down and settle down. Now you know what each section does. So when I talk about them, or you hear somebody else talking about them, you'll understand it better, right? So now this tells the body, I am safe. Remember, I always tell you all on the exhale, tell yourself, I am safe. I am loved. I am worthy, right? The brain rewires through repetition. The more you repeat something, the more the brain will start to create new neural pathways to support that. So repeating healthy thoughts creates new neural pathways. So how about we start encouraging each other, encouraging our friends, encouraging our loved ones, and teaching our children and grandchildren how to start creating those new healthy neural pathways at an earlier age, so that guess what? They are not in their 40s and 50s learning this stuff like we were, right? Does that make sense? So here's a nervous system grounding exercise that you all can do. This will teach you to regulate before you react. Grounding exercises. If you don't have a grounding mat, don't get me wrong, I have one. I love it. But if you don't have a grounding mat, you can place both of your feet flat on the floor. It works even better if you're somewhere where it's warm and you can actually take your shoes and socks off and go put your feet in the grass. That will instantly start grounding you. You can go and lean up against a tree. That will start grounding you. Why? Because nature naturally will sense what your nervous system is doing and will actually start pulling the negative out of you and replacing it with positive. So if you're in your house and like it's cool and it's cold here and it's raining. So we're gonna be inside. So you place your feet flat on the floor, about shoulder width apart. You want to inhale deeply in your nose. Remember, in the nose, it regulates the temperature, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, it regulates all of that before it hits your lungs, right? And so when you inhale, you hold it at the top to the count of 4. And then you breathe out your mouth to the count of 6. Hold it for 4. Then inhale again. Again. And when you exhale this time, say, I am safe now. Yes. So now, if you look at yourselves daily and speak regulating thoughts out loud to yourself, yes, nature is medicine. Uh-huh. Oh, really? That's beautiful. So you actually will begin to reprogram yourself to speak and think these things of yourself. So if you're in a mirror, look at yourself in a mirror and say, I am safe to rest. I do not have to live in survival mode. My body deserves peace. I can heal emotionally and financially. I release over functioning. I deserve healthy support. I can slow down without guilt. This teaches the brain to listen to the repeated language. And as the brain is listening, guess what? The more you say it, the more the brain is like, oh. And if you do something simple like the tapping, remember, if you tap on the right side, say something that is true. So you can say your name. My name is Chantel. My name is Chantel. If you tap on the left side, you want to tap something that you want to be true, right? And that can say, my cruise is scheduled. I'm scheduling my cruise soon. My cruise is going to be scheduled soon. My cruise is going to be scheduled soon. You can say something that you want to be true, or my cruise is scheduled. So I'll say my cruise is scheduled. And then you say, my name is Chantel. My name is Chantel. And guess what happens? Your brain, because you're tapping, will start saying, hey, we got to schedule that cruise. Now, mind you, I have a plan because I want to schedule a cruise. I'm going to schedule a cruise soon. I already have a paid for vacation in Florida. So I said I will go ahead and leave from Florida. So I'm going to go do that vacation, then go on my cruise, and then come back and enjoy and be all tanned and all that other beautiful stuff and have relaxed some. But the beautiful thing about all of this is this. When you're doing these types of exercises, it is neurologically telling your brain, I am safe, I am loved, I am safe, I am loved. Again, right side is facts, left side is what you want to be true. When you do this, it's teaching your brain to start making pathways that make this true. And your brain will connect with your spirit, which will go forth and start making these things happen in your life and manifest in your life. It's the same as when you were kids and we used to do what is it? I'm not the vision boards, right? So now here's another somatic movement, right? Cross body regulation movement. If you slowly tap the opposite shoulder, while you're doing your deep breathing, and relax your shoulders and your jawline. This teaches your body to regulate both hemispheres of your brain and reduces the nervous system overwhelming and feeling. You don't even have to say anything, just the tapping. And while you're breathing. And so these are things that I want you all to remember that you can do because this supports the emotional processing and grounding. And when you're doing these things, it gives your body an opportunity to actually settle itself. It calms the amygdala. It lowers stress hormones. It improves your focus. It regulates your emotional reactiveness, and it increases oxygen to the brain. All of these things begin to create new neural pathways of I am safe, I am loved, I am enough, all of those wonderful things, right? And so when we're doing that, you can even do the inhaling to 4, hold it to the count of 4, exhale slowly to the count of 8. You can change it up, and each different breath ways that you do it can change how it does or how fast it will regulate your body, your mind, your nervous system. The longer exhale, those signals safety to the nervous system, and it releases the cortisol activity. And so the supporting scriptures, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, of cowardice, or of craven or cringing and fawning fear. But he has given us a spirit of power and of love and of a calm and well-balanced mind and discipline and self-control. Now, we may know this from the King James Version, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So with that being said, the scripture talks about a calm mind, a balanced mind, discipline, and self-control. Survival mode disrupts all 4 of those. Healing restores all 4 of those. So God never designed anyone, but especially women, to live trapped in chronic fear, emotional exhaustion, or nervous system chaos. Isaiah 26:3, you will guard him and keep him in perfect and consistent peace, whose mind, both its inclinations and its character, is stayed on you. When we keep our mind focused on God, He will keep us in perfect peace. Peace is not just spiritual. Peace affects the nervous system. A regulated mind produces clearer thinking, wiser decisions, emotional stability, healthier relationships, improved discipline, and better stewardship. So I'm going to try to go to this last little section about the cost of survival mode really quickly, right? So one of the biggest symptoms of menopause might actually be how it affects our credit card debt. Because how many of us have a cabinet full of supplements trying to see what was going to stop the hot flashes, the night sweats? How many bottles of melatonin do you have in your house to help you go to sleep at night? How many of us have some stuff to help us, some B vitamins to try to keep the frozen shoulder away, some rubbing ointment that's supposed to help with the knee pain and the elbow, and all those things, right? We start buying stuff to try to address the symptoms, the fruit, but we're not addressing the root. Right? It's not judgment. This is awareness. So emotionally, we're spent as well. Dopamine temporarily relieves the stress. So we do things like I told you, when I show up for myself, I have me some watermelon, I have me some pineapple, I have me some banana and a green apple. That's my reward, my dopamine hit for showing up today for you all and for myself. Right? Shopping creates those emotional escapes as well. That's how we end up buying stuff that we don't need, or that's sitting over in the corner, or that's in the back of the closet, that's collecting dust. When we first saw it, it was like, I gotta have it. I gotta have it, right? Exhaustion lowers decision making. Survival mode seeks comfort, and emotional depletion reduces impulse control. So women in survival mode often overgive financially. We rescue everyone else. We avoid financial planning. If you don't inspect what you expect, then you can't expect to have the result that you desired. So how many of us are actually have a budget, manage the budget, watch the budget, look at it, and have one day a week where we actually sit down and look at the numbers and let the numbers speak. Hear it and make adjustments, pivot where necessary, right? So that emotional spending, that undercharge, meaning we feel exhausted all day long. We feel like, I'm barely moving. Fear of investing in ourselves. Who has that one? We tolerate the instability because survival mode focuses on today. Healing builds for tomorrow. The scripture for that is Proverbs 21:5. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness. So diligence is difficult when the nervous system is exhausted. You cannot build wealth effectively while emotionally drowning. Excuse me, I need to drink something. This is why healing matters financially. So some people don't need another side hustle. They need to regulate their nervous system, and they need 8 hours of rest on a daily basis. The body keeps the score. I keep saying that. So I reread that book a couple of months ago, and it just keeps coming back up. The body keeps the score. Trauma is not only remembered mentally, but it's stored physically. Unprocessed stress manifests in our body. We've been talking about it, right? The migraines, the digestion issues, budgeting, really? But here's the thing. If we don't budget, how are we going to be prepared for the future? How are we going to leave a legacy and an inheritance for our children's children? We're not infidels. We're not striving to be infidels. And in order for us to pass along something for our babies, guess what? We have to be disciplined within ourselves so that we can teach our children to be disciplined, that they may teach their children to be disciplined. Personally, I told my sons, I'm teaching my grandchildren budgeting, finance. I'm teaching them about the vehicles to put their money in when they start saving. All of these things, I'm teaching them at a young age. Why? Because if they know it before they're teenagers, their whole mindset changes. If I can show you the benefits of having an IUL at the age of 8, and you see the benefits, and by the time you're 11, I'm showing you how much money you already have stored up in an IUL that we will only put in $25 a month in. And it gets up and goes to work Monday through Friday when the stock market is open, just like you get up and go to school. So while you're learning, your money is working. When the stock market has a fall, your money says, I'm going to get off right here. You can go and drop. And when you come back up this way, I'll jump back on. That's the beauty of an IUL. And so when you can teach that to a child and they see the value of it, and now you can say to them, so when you get to be 16, you'll have enough money, but you'll also you're also making yourself a bank, so you can buy your own car at 16 when you're able to drive. You can already have some money set aside for college. So even though you're going to get a scholarship, because we're going to speak that and declare and decree that in your life, but you'll also have money in the bank, and you'll be finding grants and scholarships every semester while you're there, right? Because the body remembers. And if the body is going to remember and keep score, why don't we give the body something good to remember, right? We have spent decades disconnected from our bodies because of survival requirements, emotional suppression, right? But healing requires reconnecting to ourselves, reconnecting to the realness of what needs to happen for us. Because guess what? We're not going to have vitality all of our days based upon how this government in the US is trying to fill us with plastic and fake food and toxins and parasites and everything else, right? So we have to do what we need to do to make sure that we have the best versions of life at every stage of life with the healthiest bodies we can obtain and maintain in life, right? And that requires having healthy spending habits as well. So if you're sitting up straight and you do the hip circles, right? That releases that survival mode, instability. Yep, like you're hula hooping. And that's why I tell people, get you a hula hoop. It is your friend. I have a weighted one, 5 pounds. And can I tell you, that's how I lost that 72 pound hula hooping every day, at least 30 minutes a day. Hula hooping, yes. And if you're in Atlanta or in the South, you can get a weighted hula hoop. They even have the smaller ones that you can order online, and it has a little string and a ball on it, and you can change the weight on the ball and just spin it around. Yes, hula hooping. It releases some things, but it tightens the abdominal area. Remember how we were kids? We would just be outside hula hooping for hours, singing songs and playing little games, trying to learn how to jump rope with the hula hoop and still keep the motion going and keep it going. Have one on our neck and one on our arms and one on our waist. And we try to stand on one leg and do it. And we thought we was gonna make it, but it's okay. We learned from that fall, right? But we had fun. Learn to have fun in life again. The hips often hold emotional tension and chronic stress patterns, that fear, pressure, resentment, over responsibility. Release it. Release the survival mode. Release that over functioning. Release it. Have fun again. So I don't want to keep hammering this in, but I wanted you all to know how this all works. Galatians 6:5 says, for every person will have to bear his own load. But guess what? Even though you're bearing your own load, I can help you in prayer carry it. We're not assigned to carry everybody. We just have to carry ourselves. And while we're carrying ourselves, guess what? I learned handling Chantel's business thoroughly and fully. I don't have time for nobody else's business. Right? So helping is healthy. Self-destruction is not. So when you see yourself going overboard for other people, doing things that you don't do for yourself, stop. So I'm going to stop here because trust me, I had way more notes and I had way more stuff to talk about, but I don't want to keep hammering this because I want you all to see that loving yourself And being kind to yourself is important. So I'm going to close out with a final prayer. So, Father, we thank you as we release this survival mode today. We release exhaustion, fear, overworking, emotional suppression, guilt, anxiety, and the pressures of constant performance. Heal our nervous system, heal our minds, heal our bodies, heal our financial habits, heal our emotional wounds, heal our distorted beliefs. Teach us how to rest without guilt. Teach us how to build intentionally. Teach us how to regulate our emotions, and teach us how to steward our health, our relationships, and our finances wisely. We declare that we are healed, we are rebuilt, we are overwhelmed with joy only and not stress. We are becoming whole in your presence. In Jesus' name. I want you to remember this and hold fast to these words. Healing is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Boundaries are not selfishness, right? And starting over does not mean you failed. Sometimes God is destroying your life because he simply wants to interrupt the survival patterns so that you can finally live. He will break down some things so that you can begin to see that you deserve better. So I love you all with the love of Christ. I want to stop the recording so we can have a real honest conversation. And for those of you who are listening to the recording, you can DM me, or you can definitely send questions that you may have to me. But we're going to get down to some fun stuff now.